She didn't look Amish. She'd worn a knee-length dress, and she'd left her hair down. She'd even cut it so she could wear it down on her shoulders over the summer without it making her too warm. Truth was, she was pregnant without a husband, and the entire world could probably see it. She hadn't needed the test. She already knew the truth. Her abdomen was swelling, and she hadn't had her cycle for over 3 months. She'd planned to surprise Callum with the news when he returned from New York. He'd made a promise to her that he was going to talk to his father about her on that trip and tell him about their plans to be married. They'd been together for more than a year already, and she hadn't yet met his family. Callum had told her his father had other plans for his life and wouldn't understand. Was Kate part of his father's plan for him? She thought he was just as much devoted to marriage as she was. Was it possible she'd misjudged him? Perhaps she'd been wrong about him. Perhaps she never really knew him at all. Now, as she looked at this very Englishwoman, she had to wonder if Callum had changed his mind about marrying a humble, plain Amish woman. She'd done her best to fit in with the English because she thought that was what Callum had wanted. Sure, she'd tied up her hair under her prayer cap when she'd gone home, so her sister Sarah wouldn't notice she'd cut it, but she'd always worn it down for him. "You can't be his fiancée," Maddie finally stuttered, finding her voice. "I am." Her voice trailed off, feeling the shock wear off and the reality finally sinking in. Kate laughed at Maddie, tossing her hair over her shoulder and leering at her. "You didn't really think he loved you, did you? You were just a little fling he needed to get out of his system before marrying me. And by the way, he knows about the pregnancy, and he doesn't intend to marry you. He doesn't want an Amish baby." Maddie clamped her hand over her mouth to stifle the sobs that she could not control as she ran to the ladies' room. Kate followed her into the bathroom and stood there tapping her stiletto on the tile floor, her arms folded across her narrow waist. "I didn't get a chance to tell you the best part," she said, digging her hand into the oversized purse that hung from her shoulder. "He wanted you to have this, for the baby, of course, but only on the condition that you stay out of his life and don't embarrass him with your illegitimate child." The words stung. Illegitimate. She and her child would always carry the stigma. Maddie refused the envelope the woman held and continued to sob. "Please," she said with a ragged breath, "leave me alone." Kate dropped the large manila envelope at Maddie's feet, several $1,000s spilling from it. "He knew you were only after his money," she said coldly. "That should be enough to take care of the little brat his entire life. Don't bother us, ever. We wouldn't want our own children to know that they have an illegitimate sibling, especially not an Amish one." The words stung worse the second time. She'd used the word Amish as if it was a dirty word. Maddie collapsed onto the cold tile floor beside the money, the sound of Kate's stilettos clacking across the bathroom floor as she left her there alone.